Decision is ours.
Good candidate.
It's a voter's decision.
Sir, man of people, I said, this is one word.
Okay, it's man of people. Okay, we're happy with that? The man of people, okay, that's good.
People person, the right word is people person.
People person, okay, he's a people person.
Thank you, keep that.
That's 2 words. Thank you, Julian, that's 2 words. Okay, so now we've got 3 candidates left. So let's see what we can,
Last question, sorry.
we could,
I actually thought it finished at 4:30, so I must
Okay.
have got a different memo.
okay, no, that's okay.
No, one is in between.
We're just going to talk about the budget, just quickly. So, okay, we're going to talk about immigration. Okay.
You my old friend. We went to my city in Pakistan. On my phone.
That's okay. That's all right. I had some immigration notes, but so this will go to Carla. The immigration system in Canada. When the Liberal Party was, we immigrated into Canada actually in 1974, and the Liberal government was in party at the time, and they were very open and welcoming to immigrants. Now times have changed. There are, and most of you have alluded to it, the security concerns that you have with immigrants coming into Canada. How will your party open the borders to immigrants, as well as we had a question on the education. A lot of the immigrants that come in, there are doctors, lawyers. Good. They have great professions. Unfortunately, with some of the laws and the attitudes in Canada, they are not allowed to practice their trades in Canada. So, if elected, what will you do to open up the immigration doors, as well as making it easier for our immigrant population to work in their fields?
I think it's really a shame that we have a current government that on the one hand says we want to attract the best and the brightest, and on the other hand doesn't recognize the credentials when those people come to Canada. When you use as a selection criteria your qualifications, and then you do nothing as a government to help people either recertify or have their existing credentials acknowledged. One of the challenges, and I would, again, and I feel badly that the Conservative isn't here to hear this, but one of the challenges, the Conservative government doesn't talk to people. It doesn't forge relationships. It doesn't go to professional associations and figure out what we can do to streamline these processes. A Liberal government would focus on family reunification as a top priority in immigration policies. It would streamline immigration processes so that you don't have to wait years and years to go from refugee status to Canadian citizen, to have your family join you here in Canada. I think thank you. I think this is one that I'm kind of passionate about, but I think there's so many things we can do. When you say that there was concerns about immigrants coming to Canada, there aren't concerns about immigrants coming to Canada. Immigrants built this country, right? All of us are immigrants, however many, either now or however many generations back. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And I'm very, very passionate about this, and I would be very much interested in hearing more about the immigration failures that this government has, because it's something that I am very, very interested in advocating on behalf of to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the NDP has a very, very clear record historically of sticking with ethnic minority groups and supporting them. Even when it came to us having a vote here, both the Liberals and Conservatives opposed brown people from getting a vote. And it was the NDP that fought for that. I also want to say that it was quite a shock to me when I became a parliamentarian that there's a kind of not a quota system, but targets for different countries. And I want to tell you that those targets were brought in by the Liberals during Chrétien's years. So that indicates from each country how many we're going to take and where. So when you think about that, what the Liberals were doing behind closed doors, now the Conservatives do quite openly, and they make those announcements. What we need are nation-building immigration policies. I heard my colleagues say that the Conservatives want the young and the brightest. My response to that always is, they don't drop from the sky. They have parents who birthed them, who've educated them, and we need to have reunification as our top priority. Also, spousal takes just far too long and puts marriages in jeopardy even before they've spent any time together. And so for me, one of the key things is we do need nation building. We do need to make sure it's open and transparent. Dual citizenships, being able to lose their citizenship. You know, I'm the one who was the critic who filibustered that bill. Spoke for hours and hours through the night. And we got very little support from Trudeau and the Liberals at that time. And it's only when 44,000 people sent in petitions and things, the second time the bill came through, suddenly it's a bad thing. But we have also said we will repeal that bill because a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. Nobody should have a two-tiered citizenship.
Thank you, Ginny. Okay, we have a couple of questions on education. We touched about it a little bit. Jeremy, we can pass the floor on to you in regards to these questions. To achieve higher education in universities, why are our children being rejected while universities are being flooded by foreign students? Another one is new graduates are having difficulty with jobs. Our retirement rate is low. And number of graduations. How are we going to deal with increasing job opportunities?
Okay, so there's quite a lot there.
There's
to
a
wade
lot there.
through.
Yeah.
That's
So
quite
just
quite a bit.
just weed which you think is relevant.
Okay, so I come from an education background. I taught at a university before I got involved in politics, and one of the biggest issues we face overall in Canada is the restructuring with regards to university education and getting people in to get that education. It's the restructuring of the university system to focus on increasing profits and emphasizing research programs that are good for private industry instead of good for the country as a whole. The Conservatives undertook quite dramatic changes in both of these areas, and to the detriment of the country overall. We have a lot of students who can't get access to universities because seats are being filled by foreign students, which is not a problem, right? That's not an issue. The issue is that foreign students, the reason that's happening is that foreign students often pay 3 or 4 times the amount of tuition. And so the university is less focused, thank you, on making sure that there's a quality education available than they are on making money. And that has to do with the type of funding that universities no longer receive. The federal government has a role to play in advanced education. It used to play a very productive and positive role. Now the government plays the role of trying to privatize the university sector for the benefit of large corporations that are using universities to generate private profits, as opposed to providing good educations that lead to good jobs. Now, of course, the jobs issue is a separate issue, another failure of the Conservatives on the economy to deliver what they keep saying they've delivered, which is good jobs. So they haven't. They've delivered a lot of part-time, temporary, thank you, contract jobs. And students, my students, the ones who are graduating after I've taught them, are going on with massive amounts of student debt because of increasing tuition into a job market that does not have the jobs that they need to pay off those debts.
Thank you.
A lot to cover.
There's a lot to cover. Yes, there is a lot to cover. We're going to...
3 very big questions.
Well, Carla hasn't done a rebuttal yet. Carla, would you like to do a rebuttal?
I'm worried about everybody else's time. I could be here all night, so.
That's okay. No, I don't want to be here all night, so...
None of us want to be here.
Yeah, you can do your rebuttal.
What I would say is that, you know, the federal government needs to take a leadership role in education, in particular advanced education. I think we need to look to the federal government to go have a national strategy to deal with advanced education, whether it be university, whether it be trades, whether it be college. We really need to look at this holistically and systemically. We have a situation in Canada where public education is not available to the public because there's barriers in terms of finances to many, many Canadians partaking in the kind of education that both Jeremy and I were lucky enough to have. And that has to stop. And you cannot create public policy that is driven solely by economic decisions. You have to create public policy that's driven by the public interest. Yes, we have to take finances into account. Yes, we have to be prudent with how we spend our money, for sure. But when you lose the public interest side of any government initiative, thank you, you are risking getting out of the business of government, is what I'd say. In terms of the job front, the Liberal government is very committed to employment for youth, especially youth who are transitioning out of university, for youth who are transitioning from trade school. We need to create more jobs. We will create more jobs for youth in particularly in the fields that Canada needs to emerge in, such as green tech. We need to let our young minds take this helm of our ship and direct it in the way that will get us back to the point where we can recognize our Canada again. Thank you.
Thank you. We're running out of time here, but I just want to quickly touch on the budget and the economy. And the Liberal Party has said that they want to run a deficit for the next 3 years. The NDP says that they want a balanced budget. The recent paper that the NDP published has indicated that you're forecasting a surplus. However, the economists and some tax auditors have said that your numbers don't make sense because you're taking